All right. Well, what do y'all think about that, huh? Now that was exciting and really fascinating. And I think they covered a lot in this episode, and I am pretty pleased with the end result here. First of all, before we move into the full recap and my thoughts on this episode, I went to the credits, and I'm glad that they included it. So in the credits, I'm going to show it on the screen right now, guest starring. That was indeed Zeb that we saw in the bar in that cantina. So we have a cameo from Rebels in this episode. First time we've seen a live action portrayal of Zeb from that show. And how amazing and awesome is that? Now, why is he by himself? It's nice that it looks like he is working with the new Republic, which is very interesting. What he is doing right now, we don't know as of yet, but it looks like he is working with, our buddy there who is friends with the Mandalorian, who, had that nice discovery at the end of the episode. Where's Hera? We don't know. Where's the rest of the crew? Probably we won't know until Ahsoka series comes out, but it was so cool to see Zeb. That's really, really awesome. And that's the one thing that's awesome and that is done really well with this series. And, because of course you have Dave Filoni, who's, responsible for all this stuff, is that, he does a good job at tying in all these things and, kind of playing that fan service and making sure that the characters that he's been responsible for and that he's created gets their time. And we definitely got to see that with Zeb appearing in this episode. Okay, so the director of this episode was Peter Ramsey, and I quickly looked it up, and he directed the DreamWorks animated film Rise of the Guardians, and I remember that was a very kind of fantasy action driven type of film, animated film, and it looks like he may have some stuff to do with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and all that. And there was a report last year that he was also tapped to direct an episode or two of Ahsoka. So it looks like this is our first taste as to what he can do and bring to Star Wars, and I think he did a really good job at maintaining the pacing and the tone and the action, the drama, the intensity, and all that. Again, I said it earlier. It's funny now. It makes sense. I said it felt like I was watching an episode of the animated series. Whether it's Rebels, Clone Wars, maybe Bad Batch, it felt like that type of tone and that type of action and drama and build up and suspense. It really felt like I was watching one of the animated shows, and from this guy who looks like he comes from the animated world, it makes sense. But to be able to give that type of sense and set that type of tone in live action form is very interesting, and I think it really does play well within the Mandalorian universe and within this type of series. But I think the main important thing and the one major takeaway here is that we are finally getting a sense of what we may be seeing as the end goal of this season. And of course, it's been hinted all throughout this season so far. It's just, we've been getting like little snippets, little build up here and there. But with the Mandalorians helping out in rescuing Navarro from the pirate threat, the pirates had nothing to do with it. The pirates was just basically a setup to kind of get them to come out and do what they do and really help out the people of Navarro. And it's kind of like a homecoming. The Mandalorians have been so used to being secluded and hiding and all that. Now they came out into the forefront to help out these civilians, and now they're being shown gratitude. They've been awarded part of land where they can live and set up their home base and all that. And it was a great setup, and we saw a glimpse of it last week with Bo-Katan kind of like showing her leadership skills, showing how well she could organize and really direct people and strategize and all that stuff. And the armorer sees that. And based on the conversation that they had with Bo mentioning the mythosaur and, them being on Mandalore, now is the time for the Mandalorians to unite. And she wants Bo to really take on that leadership to unite the Mandalorians all together. Since, Bo has kind of been on the other side of things. She comes from the higher hierarchy on Mandalore, while, these guys are a little bit more of the outskirts. They're a little bit more a smaller group. Bo has been on the other side where it's like, she was leading and in charge of so many Mandalorians and all that. So hence why she was allowed to take off her helmet and kind of show that she is a universal representative for the Mandalorians, for them to reunite and take ownership and reclaim Mandalore, which, again, if you pay attention to this season and where it's going, obviously that was going to be the main goal here. And it's nice that they finally kind of spilled it out and spelled it out for everyone that, all right, we saw what we could do under the leadership of Bo. We were united. We were able to fight and defend these people and liberate them and all that. What more can we do under her leadership when we have a bigger group, when we have everyone back together? Let's get these Mandalorians out of hiding and let's reclaim Mandalore. And Bo is, going to be the one in charge of that. And I'm sure with Din's help and all that, and with Grogu, that's going to be what the end goal here is. And then consequently, and, kind of in parallel with all that, Moff Gideon has escaped. So he is no longer in captivity. And again, that is something that was somewhat hinted at. And I think we were kind of expecting, again, if you were paying attention to everything. So Moff, especially kind of his beef with the Mandalorians and kind of, his fascination with Mandalorian culture, and, of course, he was in possession of the Darksaber. He might be the one that will try to prevent them from reclaiming and recapturing Mandalore. So I think now we have been set up and we've been pretty much told what that main conflict is going to be, what that main opposition is going to be. It's going to be the Mandalorians trying to reclaim Mandalore under the leadership of Bo-Katan. And of course, Din's going to be there to help out with Grogu, and Moff Gideon's going to prevent that from happening because I'm sure he's pretty sour with how things left off in the previous season, and he wants revenge. And he has this little network working with him right now. He has Elia Kane. Is it Elia or Elia? I always don't know how to pronounce it, but whatever. She's embedded herself behind the scenes with, the New Republic. And, I'm pretty sure she's like spying on how they operate, where they're putting their focus on. And, she has, the grasp on that side of things. And I'm sure she's gathering intel from Moff and all that stuff. And that's going to be so fascinating to see how that's going to play out. Who knows what other help he has? We don't know who has freed him. And it turns out the big reveal also was that Beskar armor or Beskar remnants was found on the ship. So was he rescued by another group of Mandalorians that could, potentially pose as a threat? That would be really interesting to see. And it'll be interesting to see like who those people are and what's gonna happen, So a lot of stuff has been kind of laid on the table, laid out here on the table, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that's all going to play out. Could there be maybe potential double cross? Is there a potential conflict maybe within the current set of Mandalorians that we know now, and maybe there's a secret agent or a spy within that group? Maybe Moff Gideon got into their ear somehow, and he's trying to get them to help him out, or whatever the case is. Who knows? I mean, is it the big guy? It was kind of interesting to see how the big dude kind of, made a quick turnaround just because Mando and Bo helped save his son in the previous episode. All of a sudden now he's on Mando's side and, kind of like supports what he thinks, should be done and all that, when he was always opposed of what Mando used to do, especially when, when it came to light that he was in possession of the Darksaber and everything. So it'll be really, really interesting to see who this other group is and who's helping out Moff Gideon kind of escape and come back into prominence. And I'm sure that's going to be the major conflict that we're going to see with the Mandalorians as they try to reclaim Mandalore. So have at it. Speculations are abound. Who do you think is involved and behind all of this stuff? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments. I'm sure the internet's abuzz right now and people are speculating and kind of, throwing their hints and everything like that. I would love to hear all of your thoughts, all of your theories. Let me know all about them in the comments. But most importantly, let me know your thoughts and feelings about this episode. I feel like this is an episode that we've been dying to get. It took us a while to get here, but we're finally here. And I think we have enough time to kind of watch and see how this all plays out. And I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun and a lot of excitement. As long as we don't get another Adventure of the Week type of episode, I think we are in good hands and we're in store for a pretty interesting ride. So let me know about your thoughts on this episode in the comments. Let me know all your theories. Where do you think this is going? Who do you think is involved with rescuing Moff Gideon and kind of getting him out of captivity? And who do you think Bo is going to approach first when it comes to seeking out the other Mandalorians to kind of help unite them all as one and reclaim Mandalore? Could we possibly now see Sabine show up? And oh yeah, let me know what you thought about that nice little Rebels cameo that we got. And Zeb, I still can't believe we saw Zeb, and I think that's so awesome. But that's going to be it for me for this week. Again, if you haven't done so yet, don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you get notified every time a new video is uploaded. Of course, if you're looking for audio versions of what we do here on the channel, type in LOWKEY GEEK on your podcast platform of choice, where you could find the recap portion of this episode and everything else that we do up on there for your downloading and listening pleasure. And one last reminder, if you're in a position to further help the channel and help the channel grow, don't forget, check out the affiliates that we have in the description of this video. We got some great discounts and deals for you to check out, and maybe some things that you've never heard of before. So you could be finding something very cool for yourself or for a loved one. And by participating and by purchasing stuff for yourself, you will also be helping support the channel at no additional cost to all of you. So once again, thank you so much for your support. But like I said, that's it for me. I'm going to head on out of here. So once again, I will see all of y'all next week. Stay cool, stay classy, stay safe. See you in the next one. All right, peace out, y'all.